Wow, we made it to 2026, y'all. Can you believe it? This video was initially supposed to come out a couple of weeks ago, but the holidays really got in the way. I hope you can forgive me, y'all. January is a time for reflection anyway, right? So it's the perfect time to look back on the past year of anime, mention the lows, discuss the highs, and ring in the next year of anime by giving the last year its final send-off. Last year, like it seems every year is now, was another high mark for the medium across the board. Among the ignorable fluff of bargain bin isekai slop or throwaway incel romance bait were some genuine all-time bangers. From new IP, sequels, spin-offs, originals, to films and finales of long-standing shonen. This was an insane year. So grab some hot cocoa and a warm blanket. We have a ton to talk about. Before we get started, I just want to say, this video took more effort than I probably have ever put into anything before. Make sure you tell me how much you appreciate my hard work with a like, subscribe if you like the cut of my jib, and comment when you feel like telling me my opinion is wrong, or on the off chance you agree with me. That's cool too. Thank you for allowing me this brief interlude. Let the video begin. I'm gonna start by rapid firing some of the lesser shows that I don't really have a lot to talk about. And I'm gonna start with the sequels from this year. Kaiju number 8 gets even more disappointing the further away I get from the cliffhanger this year. My Dress-Up Darling leveled up this year in the art and animation department. Rascal Does Not Dream of Santa Claus brought our boy Sakura to college, raised the stakes, but ultimately it's still the same mystery light / romance show it's always been. Call of the Night returned to give Creepy Nuts an excuse to write a new song. Star Wars Visions had a 3rd volume and continues to be the most fun and imaginative stuff Star Wars is producing right now. Special highlight to the final episode, Black. As terrifying as it is brutal, it's a must watch for art house and Star Wars fans. Dawn to Dawn is continuing to prove itself as the true best new shonen. Shoshimen just finished airing. Not the finale, just finished. Where's the next volume, Yonezawa Sensei? And finally, for the sequels, since it just finished airing, Spy Family returned to fill us all with the warm and fuzzies as easily the most digestible anime ever created. Next are just some of the random shows that I watched here or there that I don't really have much to say about, but I still really enjoyed. Secrets of the Silent Witch should probably be talked about more, and it's easily the best source of reaction faces no one watched. From bureaucrat to villainous, Dad's Been Reincarnated made me feel more seen than I feel like I should be for someone my age. I Have a Crush at Work low-key depicts the most realistic office romance in all of anime, and Ururi Rocks taught us all about rock-hard rock-hard gemstones, am I right? Huh? With all that out of the way, before I go on to give the cream of the anime crop their due glazing, I first want to clean house and talk about the absolute disappointments and hot trash this year has brought us. Meku MD Dr. Detective had me in the first few episodes, then they left the hospital and it all went downhill from there. If you want to be house, you have to try a little harder with the doctor angle. Lazarus was Watanabe at his most uninspired, easily his least thought-provoking work. It's kind of a retread. You could look at this as the Force Awakens to his Cowboy Bebop, and all of the baggage that may carry for him. Enjoyable, but otherwise completely forgettable. I was supposed to talk about Chitose-kun is in the Ramune bottle for the fall, but the show got delayed like 3 weeks, which is always tragic. The adaptation seems to still be holding strong, thankfully, and we have another core as well to look forward to, so more on this show to come from me. That's a promise. Now comes the naughty one. The biggest disappointment of the year is undoubtedly One Punch Man Season 3. I don't want anyone to start spewing hatred in the comments or toward any of the active staff members. This is solely because of Bandai and possibly even Shueisha. I don't want to get into all that anyway, I just want to emphasize how much of a tragedy this season's adaptation is. Like, Season 2 had animation at least. What happened here is nothing but the biggest fumble in corporate anime history. A good One Punch Man adaptation would literally print money. Now they're dealing with mass boycotting and death threats. Was it worth it? Probably not. Will they do it again? Oh, absolutely. Do yourselves a favor and just read the manga. Clearly the wait is not worth it. But enough about all that, because it's time to talk about what we all came here for, right? the smut. This year, one show was enough to fill this entire section by itself. But there were plenty other reasons for your parents to kick you out of the house this year, and I want to give them their flowers first. There are exactly 3 shows worth pointing out this year's highlights in this small, semi-broadcastable smut world. Please put them on. Takamine-san has a time manipulation hook, if you can believe it. Can you guess how our FemC bends time? Yeah, she turns back time by taking her freaking underwear off. Yep. And the catch is, if anyone sees her do it, they'll start remembering the loops. Can you guess what the main male character does? I bet you can. He gets blackmailed in the very first episode into becoming her personal closet and is forced to help her put her underwear on? Yeah, I can't believe I just typed all that out either. And that's only the 3rd horniest show on this list. For my furry homies, we have Baheneko, the elf girl's cat, is secretly an S-rank monster. A hero reincarnates as a cub of one of the strongest monsters in the world, a behemoth. But behemoth cubs look like kittens early on, so an innocent big titty elf girl adopts him. Now, it is explained in the story that behemoths can breed with any race, and every single girl in the MC's orbit wants his little kitty D very badly for some reason. It's somehow better than Inokai's dog, which is saying something. The action is actually serviceable, and at least it's normal in the world. But if you can believe it, which I'm sure you can because you watched my summer 2025 video, there is a show that dared to be more horny than even Elf on Kitten. Nukitashi is the new benchmark for pushing the boundaries of what's allowed on broadcast television. This show is so f***ing horny, the broadcast version had to censor the entire screen multiple times an episode. But what do you expect when the setting of your story is an island where sex is mandatory? Yes, in order to help curb the population crisis, Seiren Island's local government implemented a law that encouraged reproduction to a crazy degree. Now, everyone is f***ing everyone else all the time, everywhere. Monogamy, gayness, and self-pleasure are all outlawed. Enter Junosuke, a proud virgin who returns to his home island of Seiren with his lesbian little sister and begins stirring up trouble as the terrorist group in LNS, or No Love, No Sex. Of course, the one and only Pashon took on this project. No other studio would touch it with a 10-foot pole, I'm sure. And I gotta say, I'm proud of them. They work on whatever they want, no matter how non-commercial it is. Is everyone here? Did everyone make it through that last section? Good, because from here on out, it's nothing but a torrential downpour of glaze. Oh, whoa. Gotta get my mind out of hot trash mode. There were a ton of sequels this year. I've covered most of them already, but there are 2 I especially want to highlight, along with a couple of standout spin-offs. The first show on the docket is My Hero Academia Illegals, a grittier, less glamorous look at the unsung heroes you don't see fighting the big bad guys. Koichi, a college-aged All Might fan with mediocre powers, gets wrapped up in a conspiracy about a drug that evolves quirks and makes their users go out of control. Along with the wannabe idol pop step and the quirkless semi-psycho knuckle duster, Koichi must solve the mystery of the drug to keep his city safe. One thing that makes this show instantly resonate more with me than the OG story did was the age of most of the characters and that hometown pride angle. It's very Spider-Man, which is another point in its favor. It feels more like an American comic book than My Hero Academia. If you're an older MHA fan or a fan of American comics that wanted just that little bit more from MHA, this show will hit all the right buttons for you. And speaking of pushing buttons, Cygames' money printing machine, Uma Musume, had a new spin-off anime released. Based on a serialized seinen manga of the same name, Uma Musume Cinderella Grey tells a dramatized rendition of the real-life racehorse Oguri Cap's career, literally personifying all of the ups and downs of one of the most historically important horses in Japanese horse racing. And I do mean literally. They take the races incredibly serious, making sure to put all the right horses in every race, as well as using transcripts of the announcers from the original races to redub over the animated ones, right down to making sure every racer has a noticeably different gait and pace, similar to their real-life counterparts. Even if emotionally, my heart is still with Tokai Teo from Season 2, on a technical and oddly enough educational level, I really liked Cinderella Grey. They do things like explain the different race strategies and discuss the strengths and weaknesses of different tracks. In my brain, I don't really remember them ever getting into that much detail in previous seasons. It's probably the seinen of the whole thing. Now has never been a better time to get into horse girl racing. From horse girls to angel bitches, we got the sequel to a classic raunchy comedy from the golden era of Gynax, New Panty and Stocking with Garter Belt. I can't even believe I just said that. Yeah, Panty and Stocking are back, and with what I can only describe as not as immature, but not really mature humor. There's a lack of a lot of jokes pertaining to Garter Belt's ethnicity, or even jokes in expense of his faith, and less toilet humor overall as well. But it somehow maintains this raucous and raunchy, in-your-face comedy. I guess you could say the experience the team at Trigger has built up has helped the writers be more intelligent in their joke quality. With that said, another major sticking point that has been worked out was the balance of screen time between our two leading ladies. Though Panty still has more going on story-wise, they dedicate way more single bits to Stocking and just give her more presence in Panty's moments overall. With Trigger being at their most creative here, you'll see references to their entire catalog on display, oftentimes mixed in with film references, from The Fast and Furious to John Carpenter's The Thing. It may not be everyone's cup of tea, but if you're a millennial, I can't imagine a more funny comedy to watch from this year. Now is the time to talk about one of my new favorite shows that I haven't had a chance to talk about before now because, well, this is my second video ever. I'll try and keep it succinct and on topic with season 2. I'm of course talking about The Apothecary Diaries. This show is perfect for what it is. An Asian mystery soap opera set in a fictitious land loosely based on Imperial China. This kind of show lives or dies off its characters, so excuse me while I praise the MC. Our main character Mao Mao is genuinely one of the best female characters in all of anime, if not all fiction. He's the ideal opposite of a Mary Sue. He's incredibly brave and intelligent, but has real flaws that don't get addressed because not everyone tries to grow past all their flaws if they're not really harming anyone. She's less a character and more a fully realized person, almost like the story is a documentary. She's thrust into a world of political intrigue and tries to avoid the advances of the love interest Jinshi, who's his own fully realized person in his own right, all while solving the many mysteries in the rear palace that crop up. Season 2 in particular did a great job of weaving an overarching plot through a bunch of smaller one-off mystery arcs, specifically doing a good job of endearing new important characters to you. In fact, the entire second half of the season was a roller coaster of emotions, specifically because of the central character of the season, Roran. For all the homies at home that haven't watched the show yet, fucking go watch it. I'll keep my thoughts brief and spoiler free, but suffice to say, Roran is one of the best supporting characters I have ever personally seen written into an anime. She's seemingly written to foil Mao Mao, but her character soon blows past second and third dimensional all the way to fourth. By the time it was all over, I cried my eyes out over one of the most poignant dance sequences ever committed to animation. The show's biggest detraction is animation quality dip in season 2. And look, you could complain about it, but there aren't a lot of heavy action sequences. What we get for this show is perfectly serviceable when we also have insane VA performances and music. I held back a lot, but just know, I will be writing more about this amazing show in the future. But enough about sequels for now. Let's talk about some of the new adaptations that came out this year. First off is one from the most recent season. This monster wants to eat me. Not only a Yuri, but a rare toxic Yuri. Hinako is thinking about unlife after a family tragedy, but she keeps on lifing because she promised voices she heard in her delirium to keep on living. Then she meets a mermaid who makes the promise with her to eat her once she becomes happy and fulfilled. The big standout here is the music. It's honestly weighed way too heavily towards the music, nothing else holds up, but it's still a charming take on the Yuri formula. Then there are two underappreciated gems I want to highlight. First one is Kowloon generic romance. Now this is a vibe. No matter what frame you're looking at, there's a nostalgia tickling a part of your brain you didn't even know existed. In fact, I'd say a major theme of this story is the sometimes unhealthy attachment to things that make us nostalgic, which I think makes the tickling nostalgia intentional by the creator. Shocker, it's a romance. But it's anything but generic. There's a mystery involving the identity of the main character, Reiko, who is by far one of the hottest anime women to ever be drawn on digital paper. There's also a ton of wonderful representation for all people of all walks of life, which is very welcome. The only thing I must warn you about is that it has an anime-only ending that does feel a little rushed, like most original endings tend to. Other than that, a perfect ride from start to finish in my opinion. Our next hidden gem introduces another fine adult woman to add to the ever-growing catalog. In With You and the Rain, Fuji and her pet Dog. Kimi survive adulthood together in a small apartment, dealing with work deadlines, seeing parents and friends, and trying to enjoy your alone time in between. This show does this thing that may seem obvious, but I find genius. I call it perspective character building. It's kind of like world building, except because it's a slice of life where the interesting parts are the little parts of the characters we haven't really seen before, the world is like the main character and her immediate surroundings. A good example in the show is Fuji seemingly having a crush on one of her closest friends. It's not something explicitly stated by any character or an emotion acted on by Fuji. It's just there for us to naturally learn based on natural dialogue, body language, and expressions. The crazy thing about everything I just said is that this show is a comedy, and a pretty competent one at that. It balances emotional and comedic very well and never once failed to make me smile. Put it on during a rainy Sunday and you won't be disappointed. Next up is an inspiring show about a child ice skater with hopes of being an Olympic athlete. In Medalist, the realities of high-level sporting is put on full display with a nice dose of optimism to cut through the gloom. Our lead, Inori, is a 10-year-old who had a sister that was injured on the ice and has an overbearing mother who won't let her skate. The rink calls to young Inori, and soon our best boy, Tsukasa, a person with skill but low self-esteem, sees the potential in her and decides to help make her dreams come true and maybe live a little vicariously through her exploits, let's be real. The standout moments are, of course, the performances themselves. Riveting to watch, especially Inori's. The sequel is going to air in a couple of weeks, and it seems like a big tournament arc, cue the Giga Tournament arc soundbite, so we'll be seeing a lot more skating very soon. A Different Young Girl's Tale was another major highlight of the year. Anne Shirley, spelled with an E, don't get it wrong, is like the third anime adaptation of the seminal Canadian classic Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Montgomery. The first one I watched, in fact, and man, I loved it. There's an almost mythological way of writing the story beats in here, and I could literally fill a journal with every single title of every episode, which I assume are just excerpts pulled straight from the books. The titular character is an orphan taken in by two siblings living out in the beautiful and remote Avonlea, a fictitious town located on Prince Edward Island. We join her during every important moment in her life up through early adulthood, which, as you may suspect, comes with its fair share of arrivals, departures, laughs, tears, you name it. It's less a slice of life and more like the whole cake of life, and it's such a joy to watch. Anne is a darling character. I'm genuinely just starting to realize how strong the female character game is getting in anime, this being the third of 3 adaptations notwithstanding. If you don't want to read and like some pictures with your audio, check out this digestible rendition of this all-time classic. Next up, we have another classic, but this time a classic of the anime variety. Nichijo's spiritual successor, City, received the Kyoto animation treatment, and what a treat it was. Very similar to Kowloon Generic Romance, this show tugs on your nostalgia for home, with most of the comedy centered on the friendly and familial ties between the oddball characters in this wacky, slapstick-prone world. It immediately evokes the idea of a never-ending summer vacation with the people closest to you, and all the dumb crap you do to and for each other turned up to 11, and laughing about it every step of the way. And might I just say, this show is in contention for one of the most stunningly animated broadcast shows ever made. The things KyoAni does in this show wouldn't dare be attempted by even the most seasoned of studios, and they continue to prove that treating your workforce with the bare minimum of dignity and respect, positions with salaries and full benefits, will produce literal works of animated art. Speaking of works of art, Takopi's Original Sin, the very first major production by Anicia, one of the many support studios normally holding this industry up on their backs in the shadows, helping on shows like Dungeon Meshi, My Dress Up Darling, and Frieren, just to name a few, debuting with one of the most evocative, inventive, and captivating pieces of animated fiction of all time. That's a Cinderella story if I ever heard one, but the story they're telling is anything but Cinderella. Takopi speaks on topics such as child abuse, bullying, cheating, divorce, and justified murder, all from the lens of an innocent and naive alien from the planet Happy, whose sole mission is to spread happiness across the universe. And that's where the horror really lies. The juxtaposition between the events unfolding and Takopi's naive, childlike reactions to everything and the twisted ways he tries to solve problems. The show's director really lets scenes breathe. The quiet stillness and off-center camera angles of some scenes are the most terrifying parts, such as the big moment in episode 1. Please, if you haven't already, watch the show one time. It's 6 episodes, and I promise, it's so good, you'll never want to watch it again. Moving on from the new IP to full-on original shows made in-house at studios, we have 4 I'm going to talk about today, but I'm saving one for the very end, so hold tight for that. The first thing I want to talk about is Garnt Monitapo's Gigix debut short film, Bond, produced by Studio Daisy. Up front, my main problem is that there clearly was a longer story here that needed to be trimmed down for budget reasons. Garnt himself pretty much stated as much on his podcast. I still teared up though. Missing home is something almost every adult feels. The world Garnt built is truly interesting, and Kevin Penkin's soundtrack made this short film punch above its weight class. It's 18 minutes, free on YouTube, and it's good. Go and support one of our own. Next up is Sorairo Utility by Yostar Pictures, proof that golf just can't miss in anime. Birdie Wing, Tombow, and now Sorairo Utility. This golf story takes a much more relaxed, slice-of-life approach. The story centers on Minami, a girl who can't seem to find that one thing she's truly passionate about. She walks past a driving range one day and notices the crack of a good swing and instantly falls in love. 2 other girls, Ayaka, a model that got into golf after falling in love with the fashion, and Haruka, a professional level player, teach Minami how not only to play golf, but enjoy the game of golf. Minami is the perfect example of a hobbyist level player, and the theme of finding that one thing for you is well told from the 3 girls' different perspectives. A love of the fashion, a love of friends, and a love of competition. I think the thing that works for me is the light comedy atmosphere and just genuinely good vibes. I couldn't help but smile every time Minami whiffed a swing and laughed about it because she's just having so much fun with her friends. It may be more niche than most of the shows in this video, but I wanted to talk about it because I love it a lot. Another original show I loved this past year was Mappa's Zenshu, the tale of a rising star anime director who is given the opportunity to create a love story and realized that she never experienced love for anyone but her husbando from her favorite anime. The massive flop that was A Tale of Perishing. Reeling from the pressure to make another successful anime, she has a food poisoning induced isekai hallucination where she's brought to her favorite anime world. There, her mission is a simple but effective one. Rediscover her love of animation and find out if she really is in love with the main character. This bleeds a love of the medium. Every single time our leading lady does her magical girl transformation sequence and sits at her drawing desk, you can bet your ass a reference to some of the most iconic anime imagery ever created to appear from her graph pages. The Itano Circus and the Giant Warrior from Nausicaa, just to name a couple. It isn't trying to be deep, and the idea of taking the story seriously while knowing it's actually a terrible film is an interesting angle to take, and I think it endears the characters to you enough to care about their plight in the end. If you want to support original anime, please check out Zenshu. One more intermission before talking about the last few things. I'm an intimate lover of OPs and recently a convert to EDs, and I needed to find some place on this list to talk about my favorites. I'm gonna go from winter 2025 through to fall and give some brief thoughts on ones I couldn't stop watching. Sorairo Utility's opening is so freaking fun. Be the Hero is one of my most played tracks from the year. It's bouncy, vibrant, and colorful, and a perfect distillation of the general vibe of the show. My favorite parts are Minami's whiff, just like everything about that is really cool. And when they start singing Yachata, Yachata, absolute underrated classic. I'll admit the opening for Bureaucrat to Villainous is rather surface level, but it had a banger Cider Girl track, so of course I was never gonna skip it. I'm one of those types that looks up the meanings of songs I'm listening to, so allow me to glaze the lyrics a little bit. From the nonsense and everything from the chorus. Is all just absolute gold. I love how much variety there is to themes in Japanese music. It's not without its money shot though. The sequence of the family gaining color and the camera zooming toward and into the TV was very well executed. You will definitely get as addicted as me to this OP. Now, while they don't quite clear the second OP from the first season for me, both Apothecary Diary Season 2 OPs are still swinging very hard, especially in the imagery department. They're more evocative and experimental. The first OP, In Bloom by Lilas, is very whimsical, and that lends to an almost fun atmosphere to the puzzling imagery. The sequence after Jinshi gets surprised is so beautiful and the foreshadowing is perfect. While OP2 is my favorite. Mrs. Green Apple nails the bittersweet sadness of this arc of the story very well. Imagery-wise, it might even clear OP2 of Season 1. Everything with the mask is just so evocative, and in hindsight, what the characters are doing with the masks means something, which is awesome. When the eyes open and we get that sequence of first-person shots, my jaw hits the floor. OLM has continued to get better and better over the years, and this sequence is a culmination point. The fact that it switches perspectives and you can tell whose eyes you're in is a testament to how well directed the sequence is. The highlight for me is the shot of Jinshi saving Mao Mao. Very unique posing. It must have been very hard to draw that. All the watercolor stuff is gorgeous as well. If you're not already watching the show, watch the OPs, get hooked, then watch the show. It's fucking magnificent. I don't have much to say about Yaiba's OP other than that it's literal heroin for your eyes. The song is fine, but we know what we're here for. The show is just as crazily animated, but I personally find the way characters interact with one another to be a bit dated. The OP is amazing though. It's all amazing, so I feel weird mentioning anything specific, but I really like the opening shot as it zooms on our leads on top of the skyscraper. Watch the OP at the very least. And Shirley's OP, Hope by Toda, was one of my comfy jams this past year. Everything about Anne Shirley's OP just breathes the comfort of home out of every pore. The song is literally about dreams. I really like the opening foot tapping. I'm a sucker for intentional timing, and the montage at the end, specifically that quiet moment with Anne's foster mother and the fireflies, and Anne herself running in the field. Just so warm and happy. It's worth a few viewings. We had Call of the Night come back with an interesting Afrobeat Creepy Nuts track in Mirage. The OP itself is mostly all vibes, great imagery, but no standout animation moments. But I mean, it's Creepy Nuts, I have to say something. Okay, hot take. I like On the Way better than Otonoke. I know, I can already read the comments. Let me just say my piece. Otonoke is all hook. It's a banger hook, probably the best hook in all of Japanese music released in 2025, but the rest of the song just doesn't hold up in my opinion. Mirage is a better full-body Creepy Nuts track. On the Way doesn't have the best hook of 2025, but it is a consistently good song. The OPs themselves share a lot of DNA imagery-wise. I love the opening scene looking at the gray world through Okarun's glasses while any part of the world Momo inhabits is filled with color in his eyes. All the vibrant color is wonderful as well, and the final sequence with Okarun and Momo clasping hands is fucking outstanding. Like, I can tell what's happening levels of fantastic. I'm sure you've already watched it and the show, but don't watch the OP again. For me, With You and the Rain's OP has my favorite track of the year in it, Chuva by Suzuki Mamiko. It's a Japanese bossa nova track that is just so wonderful. The OP itself is no slouch. While there isn't a like holy shit moment, the monochromatic stylized coloring and actual paneling is very cool and are clear references to the original work. Fuji also just has some sick ass drip. I really like the breakdown when the water droplets slow down and the window gets filled with all kinds of beautiful images. This is my last plea to watch this OP and the show. And last, but certainly not least, we have the 1-2 punch OP and ED of Chitose is in the Ramune bottle. The opening is very surface level at first and would be nothing if not for the amazing track Liar by Kuchi. But once the second chorus hits and we get those shots of Chitose helping the girls in what seems like a dream, I'm all in. And even though it's not an opening, I just have to hand it to Feel. The ED is perfection. All the imagery and foreshadowing is done with such beauty and finesse that it's hard to believe the production was so hard to maintain with the clear level of passion on display. And of course, Cider Girl returns right at the very end of the year to give us another amazing track in Heat Haze. It's genuine perfection in 1.5 minutes. Okay, now it's the big boys. My Hero Academia has ended, minus an OVA covering an epilogue chapter released after the initial finale. My thoughts are mixed. Overall, the show is fantastic. It had a couple of slower arcs that were in the manga, so blame Horikoshi if you're going to blame anyone, but it quickly picked its momentum back up and never looked back until the end. So why are my feelings so mixed? Because it's the last shonen that I was able to watch with the rose tint fully covering my eyes. It caught me in the last years of barely adulthood, and I fell in love. While I will continue to watch shows like Jujutsu Kaisen or Chainsaw Man, it will mostly be from an older, more jaded adult perspective. I really like the shows, it's just I can't help but see the flaws now. I didn't even try watching Gachi Akuta, and it's been more and more difficult to watch the shonen I was less invested in, such as Dr. Stone. So My Hero Academia ending also feels like I finally have to let that part of who I am finally end too. I was already trying to get pickier with the shows I watched, but I guess life is doing it for me. It's sad, but hey, it's the right time for it. Seinen has been doing nothing but get more popular as the otaku that jump-started the industry continue to get older. And my shonen side isn't fully gone, it's just more refined. Mature, if you will. I'm still looking forward to more Free Ren and To Your Eternity, which I will talk about more after the current season is over. I'm just overall done with the more action-heavy stuff, I suppose. JJK and Chainsaw Man are all spectacle to me. Enjoyable spectacle, but spectacle all the same. So long, my childhood, and so long, my love for Battle Shonen. Here's hoping I can somehow muster enough childhood energy to watch the rest of Black Clover. One Piece Season 1 has ended with a record-shattering 1,155 episodes to its name. It shall resume in a 2-core, 1 season on, 1 season off structure starting in April. I sit here and struggle at what to write. Do I cover the entire season or just Egghead? Do I wax poetic and nostalgic? I decided to only cover Egghead after getting a couple paragraphs in and realizing that most of that should be in its own video. But I do want to express my sincere thoughts about the show first. One Piece has been a part of who I am for about half my life. I watched the 4Kids dub on, I believe, WB Kids as a kid, One Piece Rap for Life, at a time when I didn't even know what anime was, alongside shows like Inuyasha and Cowboy Bebop. Much later in life, as I was finally getting personally invested in anime as a medium, I found the sub on a sketchy website at the time called Crunchyroll, and never looked back. It has henceforth become my favorite anime of all time, so far above everything else that it isn't fair. I love this world, I love these characters, and I love this story. It felt good to say that. Perhaps I'll say more someday. Now let's talk about Egghead. When people say the next arc is always better, they somehow are not kidding. Egghead is one of my new favorites, and while I don't think it quite measures up to something like a Water 7, it's the closest an arc has gotten in a while for me. It suffers from some minor shonen pitfalls like the Gorosei not seeming as powerful as they probably should be, but the introduction of Vegapunk, reintroduction to Bonnie, and Egghead Island itself are all so great, I don't even care. This was a world-building arc, and they sacrificed the Gorosei's power scaling to accomplish it. Seeing Lucci and Kaku again was very cool. Vivi seems to be re-entering the picture as well, which I love. All the fights in the beginning on Egghead and off were all fantastic and awe-inspiring. Tuma's backstory brought him much closer to the top of my favorite characters list, and Bonnie full clears the top 20 for, I should think, obvious reasons. The OP, Angel Devil by Green Boys, and the ED, the One by Muke, that played during the entire backstory arc are some of my favorites of the year. There are bound to be more One Piece videos, but in the meantime, you can always check the seasonal videos for my thoughts on current arcs. I'm planning on making a One Piece section for every season that One Piece airs in. We made it to the end, and the wait was worth it, because the last show is my favorite anime of the year, no contest. Cygames Pictures, an animation studio built in-house at Cygames, one of the world's premier gacha game creators, responsible for the best gacha game adaptations in Uma Musume and Princess Connect Redive, Mother's Basement's favorite BL, Bang Brave Bang Bravern, and the very recently released The Summer Hikaru Died. This studio has been on the rise, and now with this final show, they've proven that not only can they animate incredibly well, but they can also write with the best of them, including mangaka and, honestly, in my opinion, novelists. Apocalypse Hotel is an original anime from said studio. It is Kana Shundo's directorial debut, with original character design from veteran mangaka Izumi Takamoto and series composition and script by Shigeru Murakoshi. It tells a tale spanning centuries of a not quite emotionless android concierge named Yachio and her gaggle of helper bots in a post-human world, receiving extraterrestrial guests at their hotel and learning to cope with the biggest heartbreaks using the strongest laughs. Let's start with the opening, Skirt by Aiko. This is an original anime OP, alright. You can tell the key animators worked closely with the writer. The entire plot is playing out in miniature. Yachio dances with a partner, alone, to a different, more somber song, while a real party full of aliens happens around her, until the moment the melody harmonizes for the first time and Yachio finally joins the party. It's amazing how condensed and understood the plot is here, while it takes Yachio literal centuries to complete that arc in show. The track itself was the perfect fit for the show. It just feels like it was made for this show. It wasn't. It reflects the theme of the show perfectly. Perseverance in the face of defeat. and specifically the hope it can inspire in the person themselves when they actually do push past their failures or hangups. It's purposefully dissonant the entire time. A brilliant choice to build up the tension for that wonderful relieving payoff at the end. The verse's melody is the melancholic song Yachio is dancing to, while the chorus's more upbeat and full melody is the party music. You could even consider the dissonance in the chorus to reflect how Yachio perceives the party music. My favorite parts are, of course, that heel click and the at the end. Absolute cinema. So, in a sense, this is a slice of life anime with an actual plot. You just don't realize there's a plot until the final episode. It's an anime sci-fi sitcom. Every episode acts as a perfect singular episode and also fits neatly into the grander vision of the story. There's so much happening each episode, and the foreshadowing is impressively implemented. It's honestly hard to believe at times. From things like the first guest alien and what he really means to the overall general plot by the end, or the introduction of the wedding venue in the first 5 minutes of episode 1, which leads perfectly into my favorite moment in the entire show. Episode 9. Bookmark today's page in our guests' lives. The wedding episode. It's the peak of comedy and tragedy. Greeks could only dream of writing something like this. I've never felt so relaxed with my emotions turned up to 11 and all mixed up, but the zen I felt after that episode could not be transcended. Another special mention to episode 10, Wag Your Tail But Never Wag a Shift. Yachio's wordless journey starting at 7 minutes and going straight through to the end of the episode is a bold, beautiful, and profound choice. You never see risks like that in modern day anime. This show will take you on a roller coaster of emotions most shows would only dream of taking you on without throwing up. But Apocalypse Hotel does it so well, you get all the excitement and none of the aftermath, other than the desire to ride again. If I could convince you to watch one show from last year, it would be this one. It deserves the attention, and every award it should be getting is probably being taken by Solo Leveling this year, so give Apocalypse Hotel some much due love. What a ride. Hopefully you found some new favorites, especially that last one. I will hunt you down if you have anything bad to say about Apoc Hotel. We got quite the lineup to start the next year with this upcoming season, and I'm looking forward to saying it was peak all over again. With that being said, like the video, subscribe for more anime ramblings, and let me know what your favorites were in 2025 down in the comments. Stay weeb, y'all.